Welcome. So today we're going to talk about Jesus and what was really going down when he was around, how he healed people, why he healed people. Haven't considered this before. So let's get started here. So Jesus healed people because he was trying to prove to them what it was that he was saying. So he would go out, he would, preach to the people, he'd get this big group around and he would give them a teaching. And he would explain things to them. And then he would do his healings to prove what it was that he was saying. So what was the teachings that he was giving out? Well, we've talked a lot about reaping and sowing. And so he was talking about, what you put out, you get back. And he was speaking about love. And here's the thing, is it was 2,000 years ago. So he didn't have, the kind of examples that we have these days. So he had to give different kinds of examples, and he would turn to the countryside to show the people these examples of the things that he was saying. So he, one example here was that he gave a preaching and he was talking about the sheep and the goats, and is giving an example of the sheep and how they kind of go through life, and they'll eat trash, they'll eat anything, they'll jump up on anything, they'll get themselves in all kinds of predicaments. Then he's talking about the sheep and saying how the sheep don't do this. They get along with the other sheep. They're not aggressive. They're nice. They listen when the shepherd calls them. And so he's giving examples of the sheep and the goats and comparing them to people and saying, do you know any goats? And obviously people know the goats. And do you know any sheep? Obviously you know the sheep. And he says, who does the Father love more? Well, he doesn't love either anymore, right? Each has its own different personality. But these goats, they get themselves into all kinds of trouble. Now, if you are a goat or a sheep and you're being watched by a shepherd, is that shepherd going to ignore you when you get yourself into some kind of predicament and you start bleeding out, not bleeding, but bleating out and calling out for help? Of course, the shepherd is going to leave his flock and he is going to go and attend the sheep or the goat that has got themselves into a predicament, right? He's not going to not care for the goats because they're a little bit unruly. But if they're not listening to him, it is doing themselves a disservice, getting themselves in these predicaments themselves. And the trouble that they're getting themselves in has nothing to do with a divine father. It has nothing to do with anything other than that's what that goat is doing. And it doesn't change or take away the love that the Father has for these goats or these sheep. So whether you're a goat or whether you're a sheep, I would say, throughout my life, I've definitely been a goat at some point, right? I was very rebellious when I was younger, as was Jesus. Good on him. Because if you're going with the flow and you're going with the normal, sometimes there's a problem with that. And I'm not saying that it's a problem to, be respectful or good. Like, I'm not saying any of these good things, it's a problem to be a follower of. But sometimes there are things in place that people blindly follow because they have been indoctrinated at a young age, and they don't even realize that they were indoctrinated. They think, these are my beliefs because I just believe them, when really the only reason why you believe them is because somebody told them to you at a young age and you accepted them as truth. And so now those beliefs are ruling your life. So why was Jesus actually killed? Well, he was killed because he was going against the Roman governance. So he goes into the church. Now, keep in mind, back in the day, the churches were used to purchase sacrifices. So there's a table. The money lenders up at the front are giving out this money, like accepting people's money, taking their money for these sacrifices. Now, Jesus was pissed about this. Why was he pissed? Because he knew that it's wrong. Think about how illogical this is and how there are so many things that the religious dogma tells us that we blindly follow that makes No sense at all. Now, Jesus was so pissed about this that he started flipping over the tables. So he's pissed because people are being charged for sacrifices. Think about this for a moment. If you're listening to this channel, you already get it. How does it make any sense that by me murdering something other than myself, me murdering something outside of myself, it will somehow atone for my own sinning? Right? But the people, uneducated, and just when you're told this, because I used to believe that, if we just believe in Jesus, then we're just going to go to heaven. Well, no, the whole thing of it was not for us to just believe in him, to be like, oh, I believe in him. No, it was to follow his teachings. He was teaching us how to live. It is through that following of Jesus that we create heaven on earth. We're not waiting for this to happen. I'm here after we die and hoping that this or that'll happen. You know what I mean? No, we're creating it. We're creating heaven on earth. He was trying to teach the people how to live and to better their lives, and they just weren't understanding it. So back to the church. He goes in the church. Now, people are paying for sacrifices, right? They're paying to have something killed, believing it will atone for their own sin. So all of these poor people who are suffering, and Jesus was so compassionate towards the poor people and towards sickness and towards anyone who was suffering. I experienced this just on my way home this morning from a meeting. I got chills all over my body when I seen this homeless man, and he's smoking cigarettes, and I can visibly see the suffering that he has going in his body, and it's because of his mental state. And I understand that compassion that Jesus had, because he sees all of these people suffering, and these poor people suffering, and he knows that they don't need to be suffering, and yet the church is holding damnation and the threat of hell over their head if they don't pay for these sacrifices in the church. So he's pissed, and he starts flipping over tables, because this is unacceptable. And not only is this not the truth, not only are they stealing money from the people, but these poor people are buying into it. They're paying money. They're giving away their hard-earned money towards something that is completely illogical and meaningless. And he's pissed that the church is holding this power over top of these people's heads, because it was wrong. So as he's flipping these tables over in the church, this is his demise. This is what does it, is they're like, all right, well, you know what? The people are listening to what he's saying because it's making a whole lot of sense. And we don't want this to happen, because as soon as this happens, then we're not in charge anymore. And so the Romans killed him. End of story. That's it. It's not because he was claiming to be this or claiming to be that. No, it's because he was disrupting what was going down. So he did this out of love for the people. And that rage that he had really was coming from a place of love, because he was so, he loved these people so much that he was furious that they were being lied to and treated in this way. And so as he was healing people, what was he teaching them? So he would heal them, and he would say, now go and sin no more. Now let me explain sin to you. Now, sin is something that you are doing to yourself. There is no good or bad. There's no right or wrong. It is your thinking that makes it so. And on a soul level, there is no bad, because if you look at your life, any of the suffering that you ever went through in your life, as long as you didn't play the victim, and as long as you're not still in that role of I'm a victim of this, there was goodness that came from it. So, these sins are not a bad thing. They can lead to the truth, and they can lead to freedom eventually. So he would heal people. This is how he did it. If you are sick, it is because you have some kind of belief that you're holding inside your body. I'm going to give you an example of this. If you hold a belief that, let's say that you hold a belief, or let's say you hold a fear inside your body, a fear that you are going to get some type of sickness. Maybe you have this fear because someone in your family had it. You believe that it's genetic, which is not true. It's just passed down through the beliefs. Let's say you have a fear. Okay, think about the feeling of fear. Notice how you physically, if you think about that fear and you were to really tune into it, you could physically feel it in your body. Well, what is happening when you are believing this fear? First of all, you're out of alignment with the divine, because the divine is only love. The only thing that can invest in this fear is your mind. So when you give into that fear, it manifests in your body physically. You physically feel it. You physically hold it inside your body. So what happens when you live in this repetitive thought pattern, this repetitive fear pattern of, I hope that doesn't happen to me. Well, I hope that doesn't happen to me. As you do this, you are depleting the life force energy that is meant to be in that part of your body where you were allowing that fear to go. What happens? Your body eventually breaks down, and you end up with the very thing that you did not want to happen to you, but you did it to yourself. Jesus knew this. So before he healed people, so that their disease or their ailment wouldn't come back, he had to teach them why it was there in the first place and remove the belief in that sickness in the first place. So when I'm working with clients, I'm doing exactly the exact same thing. We are removing the belief that happens to be there. So often if there is a sickness that is in the body, it has manifested through some kind of trauma from the past, which then is attached to some kind of belief. Let's say that there was sexual abuse or something like that. Well, you might end up with a disease in a part of your body that has to do with your sexuality. Why? Because there's trauma that is being stored there. So let's say you're 5 years old, you're abused by somebody, you didn't deal with it. Why? Because it's hard to deal with. You didn't know how. Maybe you went to seek help, but they weren't able to help you. If you were subconsciously holding this trauma still in your body, then it will manifest. It will manifest, and it will turn into some kind of disease or ailment. Now, this is not a punishment. What it is an opportunity for you to look at the reason why it is there and to heal whatever that is causing that sickness. There is no sickness, not one sickness, that cannot be overcome by the love of the divine and by getting in alignment with that love. There's not one disease. There's nothing. So Jesus came to teach about you reap as you sow, and he's talking about, when you harvest seeds in here, you harvest them on, or you plant them on rocky soil. Well, what happens? It'll sprout up really quick, and then it'll die away because there's not the foundation needed to support it. Or you could plant your seeds in fertile ground. And it's going to sprout up and it's going to grow and be wonderful. And he's giving these examples that you would see in nature and that you would see in farming. And he's trying to explain to them, keep in mind this is 2,000 years ago under the Roman governance, and that they have been indoctrinated with strict religious dogma for their entire lives. So to get somebody to change their mind, he had to heal to give proof of what he was saying. So he's telling people that you reap as you sow, that whatever you are sowing, you're going to reap it. So the example of it being planted on rocky ground is when you hear an idea and you think, that's so great, I'm going to do that. And then you invest in it. And then very quickly, you didn't have the foundation underneath it, the proper foundation. And so it very quickly sprouts up and then just as quickly is gone and dies away. What he's teaching about reaping and sowing is that what you do to others, good or bad, the good or evil that you do to others will be returned back to you. And he gives this example of saying, what would you do if your neighbor came to you and said, hey, do you want to walk a mile with me? I need to go pick this thing up. And, someone from the crowd goes, well, I would tell him that I'm busy and that I don't want to go with him. And he said, okay. And so then what happens in a couple years when you need your neighbor when you need his help and you need him to go and do something for you, and you go to him and he tells you no. He goes, well, I would be mad. And he goes, yes. And you probably wouldn't remember that this has now come back, that it has now returned back to you, and that it was you who originally refused to help out your neighbor. And now this is being returned back to you. So the things that we do, our good and evil that we do towards other people, is returned back to us. What also comes into our life, what other seeds that we're planting, is through our beliefs, through our fears. Whatever it is that we fear or hope will happen to us, will happen to us. Now, because time is skewed when we're down here on earth, you might have done something to somebody 12 years ago, been really bad to a friend, or ditched somebody, or did something, and now this has come back and returned to you, and now you feel really bad, and blah, 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 blah. There's no sin. There's no sin. What has happened is that you have reaped now what you have sown in the past. You have created your own karma, which has now come back to you. So there's not some punishment from some God on high. You do these things to yourselves. You do them to yourselves. So what he was teaching, he would go out and he would preach about the beautiful things, and he would have them look in nature so that they could see that even nature was this miraculous wonder that was all around them, and that miraculous things were literally happening every single day. Every single day. But they weren't even aware of it. They weren't in tune with it. And so he was speaking about a seed. And what is a seed? What is it? It is consciousness, knowledge of what it will become. Think about a little seed. You plant it in the ground. Where does the bark and the foliage and the wood and the branches, where does it all come from? From that tiny little seed. Where does it come from? It is in itself a miraculous wonder, and all it is consciousness. Your thoughts are made with the same energy that makes your conscious world. They're made with the same energy. Your thoughts are made with the exact same energy that makes our world. So this seed that is just consciousness, that is just knowledge, that tiny little seed that turns into what it will become, it knows what it will become. It is just an information packet of consciousness. And so he's speaking about this and saying how miraculous this is and how purposeful it is. There's nothing in nature that does not have purpose. There's not one thing that does not have purpose. They all work together harmoniously and purposefully. Now, if you were to take all the people out of the world and you were to just examine the world, first of all, there would no longer be any natural disasters, because these are inimical to humans being here, because we allow our consciousness to cloud the divine love that is really the only thing that exists. It is only our minds that get in the way of this. It is our belief in global warming, in climate change, in these natural disasters. It is our belief in them and the energy that we are putting out when we are thinking about them, and the fact that the collective believes in it. This is what causes it. It is our consciousness energy. Like I said, it's made of the same thing that our world is made of, that it is our consciousness energy that goes out, that manifests and create what it is that we see in our visible world. So, talking about the seeds, when we plant these seeds, and that all they are is this consciousness. Just think about that for a second. When you plant it in the ground, how it just takes some sun, some energy from the sun, and it takes water, and it comes down, and it allows this seed, this information, to grow. How are you creating something so massive out of something so tiny? Where is all of this energy? Where is the matter, the visible matter that you're seeing, coming from? Only purely consciousness. It is only consciousness. It is the awareness of what it will become. What you are witnessing is a miraculous marvel just in one tree. Now, it says in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word and blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? You can't speak words without having consciousness. So in the beginning was consciousness. And it also says in the Bible, not that I believe in the Bible, I don't, some of it's good. But it also says, that the Word was spoken and that this and this and this were created and blah, 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 blah. And then it goes on to say it was created, but it did not yet exist. That in itself is telling you the process of creation. It is telling you that it begins with consciousness. It then moves to the Word. It is then created, and it is just a matter of time before it exists. Begins with consciousness, goes to the Word, it's created, then it exists. This is the process of manifestation. So whatever it is that you're experiencing in your life, it's 100% on you. It's 100% on your consciousness. So ask yourself right now. I haven't asked myself this in a little while. But I used to wake up every morning and ask myself, what percent of heaven am I living in? And I just asked myself right now, I'm at 99. So I'm going to deal with that 1% when I end this podcast here. So ask yourself, and whatever number pops into your mind, be aware of it. What percent of heaven are you living in right now? What percent of your life feels like heaven? Okay, let's say that you were at 67%. So then that other bit, I like the 67 because that's 33. That's nice. Interesting. Let's take that, let's imagine that that's the case for you. Okay, so then that means that 33% is hell. Because if it's not heaven, it's hell. So what is that 33%? That hell is going to manifest in your body. It's going to manifest in your environment. It's going to manifest in your life because you are emitting it from your body, from your consciousness daily. And because that 33% is being held in your consciousness, you will not even be able to help yourself but to speak words that are in alignment with that 33%, therefore creating it, and therefore it is just a matter of time before it actually exists in your world. What do I help people do? I help them heal the hell. I help them heal that 33%. I help them heal whatever percent of hell that they are living in, because when they are living in that hell, they are not in divine alignment, meaning they're not even living in the truth. They're not living in the truth that exists around us. And it is our belief, in good and evil. Is that belief in good and evil? More so than our belief that the Father is just pure love that causes our illness and our sickness and the chaos and destruction in our life. End of story. It's the belief that love is not all that exists is what harms us. Why do we believe this? Because we live our life off of the past, because we come here on earth to learn. So we come here with some karma. Many people, I just had this discussion with someone this morning here, because I've seen it so many times, that if you died of some type of death wound in the past and you did not have time to heal it in that life because you died from it, it will be carried forward in your energetic body in this life. So this is karma. This is something that needs to then be resolved and healed and removed from your energetic system now in this life, because you didn't have time in the last one, because you died before you had a chance to heal it. Maybe something happened in that life and you died, and you didn't have time to have the karma return back to you from something that you had done in a previous life, good or bad. Either way, it doesn't matter. You get it back. So we basically spend the first part of our life here dealing with a lot of karma from the past, from past lives. But we also came into this life choosing our parents, them choosing us for a reason. There's things that we came here to learn. And depending on how it is that you're living your life and how long it takes for you to wake up and realize that you're creating all of it, you could be creating all kinds of karma throughout your life, completely unknowingly. Right? Let's say you stole from somebody. 10 years later, somebody steals something from you and you're like, what? I can't believe that this has happened. But you don't remember. You did it first. You are receiving your karma back from what you did. There's no sin. No. This, you can either give yourself good karma or bad karma. It's your choice. Okay, so just think about this for a second. If you wake up every day and you go out in the world with the intent of only giving out love, now you're going to have to center yourself and you're going to have to heal your past trauma in order to do this. But if you center yourself before you leave the house, you imagine that beautiful divine love and that you're only sending out love. You're sending out love through your words, which I'm doing right now for you guys as I'm teaching. You're sending out good thoughts towards people, not harboring any resentment, that kind of thing. What is going to come back to you is goodness, is wonderful goodness. Now, if you go out in the world and you hate people and you're grumbling and you're pissed because, well, this person has that and I don't have that, and all you do is complain, well, what kind of karma is going to come back to you? Exactly what you're putting out. So you're going to wonder why things never work out for you. Why? Well, because you're probably speaking about it too, right? You're thinking it, so your consciousness is focused on things never work out for me, and then you add your words into it. You've now created it, and it's just a matter of time before it becomes visible in your life, before it actually exists. And when it shows up, then you're like pissed about it because, well, you didn't want this. Well, yeah, but the universe didn't know you didn't want it. It's only responding to what you are and to what your consciousness is and what you're saying and what you're putting out there, right? So when people say things like, oh, that's too expensive, or I can't afford that, you're right. And you don't know that tomorrow some wonderful thing would happen. You don't know that tomorrow you're not going to have somebody come up and hand you a check for nothing or win the lottery or this or that, but because your beliefs are in alignment with that not happening, it doesn't happen for you. Because you get what you expect is going to happen. If you're dealing with certain people in your life and you expect them to behave towards you a certain way, because they do every time, it is your expectation, your belief that you're witnessing. That's all that it is your belief that you're witnessing. And then go back in the past. How long have you been believing that? How many times have you been creating that? And then stop it, and change the belief. Whether you're visibly seeing the change immediately or not, it does not matter. When you change the belief that is underlying it, eventually it will manifest as visible matter in your reality, and it will change things. So Jesus came to dispel the myths that were going on in the church, that you needed to sacrifice and blah, blah, blah. So, it says, oh, Jesus was the final sacrifice. Well, he essentially was, because he came to put a stop to it, to the lies. But if you look throughout the world, there is still religions and people who still use sacrifices. They believe that by murdering something else, it will atone for their own sinning. It's so illogical and saying, oh, I'm offering you this gift. Well, why would, if this was your world and all of these beautiful, precious things you put here on this planet, do you want one of the people on your planet to kill one of the things and then to offer it to you and be like, here, I killed this thing. It's just for you. Atone for my sin. And you'd be like, what? Why did you kill that thing? It was meant to enjoy life just as you were meant to enjoy life. Why would you kill that thing? It makes no sense. It's completely illogical. It's erroneous. It's false. And Jesus was pissed about it, which is why he was flipping the tables, which is why they ended up killing him. Because the people were like, yeah, you're right. That doesn't make any sense. Why have we been doing that? Hey, Paul, how much money did you spend on sacrifices this month? Because I know you've been sinning a lot. And the people were waking up. And they don't want the people to wake up, right? Because people who are awake, they're not controllable, right? They're just going to live under the divine love, and you're not going to get a penny out of them. You don't have to pay your way out of hell. Then the church isn't going to make any money. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, that's what I've got for you guys here today. I hope that this was helpful. And thanks for tuning in to my channel. If you guys follow my channel, just know that I love you and that every time that you're listening to this, I am sending you so much goodness. And because my belief and my expectation is that if you are listening to this, goodness is going to come and flow into your life. That's exactly what's going to happen. So I love you all. Thank you for the support. Please like this video. Please like it. Just click it. Just push the little click right there. Push the little button. Thank you. I love you guys, and I will see y'all in the next video.